knife skills is actually a part of the cooking, and it can be a really nice part of the cooking where you really start relaxing, start thinking about the ingredients you're using, what you're going to do with them. So I think by using the proper technique, you really make the whole part of cooking more fun. So very important when you're going to cut with a chef's knife is actually where to hold it. And the proper way to hold it is in a pinch grip, which means that you're going to hold it on the blade, not on the handle. So an easy way to do that is to make a V and close your thumb and your index finger on the blade. So you put your thumb on one side and your index finger on the other, and this way you have really good control over the knife. Much better than when you would hold it back here. So why do we want to use a chef's knife 90% of the time? Well, for chopping and slicing, you really want to be able to grab the knife in that pinch grip we just learned and still be able to have the blade touch the cutting board. If you would do the same with a small knife, for example a paring knife, you actually wouldn't be able to reach the board. So this is called knuckle clearance. Most people will start with a knife straight. But this actually feels a little awkward in your shoulder, and what will probably happen is that you'll turn your body. So you don't want to do that. So therefore you actually hold the knife in a 45-degree angle or diagonal on the board. And this makes that the knife is really an extension of your arm, and you can cut and cut and cut without getting tired. So to learn the actual motion, the best thing is to do it in little steps. And the first one is trying it without any produce. So you pick up the knife in the pinch grip, and you start on the tip, and what you basically do is you pull backwards and then you come down and slide forwards, and you see how there's always a point of the blade on the cutting board, and your blade and your hand are basically riding a circle in the air, and that's why it's called the circular motion. So we established what your dominant hand is going to be doing. It's actually going to make those circles on the blade, on and on and on. But what's the left hand going to do? The left hand is actually the guiding hand. And what that means is that it's going to be as a claw or a spider on the cutting board. So you can see that I'm standing on my nails and my knuckles are exposed. That is actually where the knife is going to touch the hand, like this. It's called the guiding hand because what's going to happen is that you're going to make that circular motion at the same speed constantly. But the left hand is actually going to move backwards over the product. And if it moves back fast, your pieces are going to be big. If it moves back slow, the pieces are going to be small. You've been patient. We're finally going to cut some produce. Celery is the best to learn because it's small and it's very soft. First, we're going to cut it in two. I'm holding my hand over top the knife so I can't cut myself. Now, I have two small pieces. I'm putting it in a 45-degree angle on the board, and I'm starting on the tip. So I slide backwards and then I go forward and cut. And you can see how I'm using the back of the knife in small circles. I'm going to show you the 4 most common mistakes so you can avoid those. Number 1 is actually holding your finger on the blade. First of all, you actually block a muscle in your arm, and after a while it might feel uncomfortable. Secondly, you could put pressure like that and you could slip. Another thing that happens a lot is that people actually want to cut with the front of the knife. But like I said, you really want to use the back of the knife. So small circles like this. Now there's 2 more. One is actually you really want to finish that motion. I know you want to be fast, but you really have to be patient. So you want to actually come in, go all the way down, and then slide forward. The last one is actually something where your brain is tricking you. It's going to tell you that it feels safer if you can see the cutting edge. And for seeing the cutting edge, you need to angle the blade. But can you see if I'm later going to really use that guided cutting and I'm angling like this? That could hurt. So you really want to try and keep that blade nice and straight. If you feel brave, we're now actually going to try the guided cutting. So your hand is going to be in that claw or spider position on the produce. And the other hand is just going to make the circular motion. Now, because the guided hand is sliding back over the product, the other hand automatically follows and is cutting the pieces. Like I said before, you can really cut anything with that chef's knife and that circular motion. For example, to get from this to this, well, that's magic. But then you can actually prepare it. You first want to make a flat surface. So you take off the edges, then you slice it up. And these slices are ready for the circular motion. So first you cut it into matchsticks. If you want a fancy word, it's actually called julienne. And then you could even cut it into little cubes. And a fancy word for that is brunoise. I'm going to show you a little trick. We're going to cut an onion. And there's one important part to cutting an onion. And that's that you want to keep the root on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little piece of the onion on the other side to again establish a flat surface. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm going to cut straight through the middle of that root. So you actually can see that the root is still on there, and that's what's keeping the onion together. So I'm going to keep it on all the way to the end. First I'm going to make a few slices parallel to the board. We've talked about the pinch grip again and again and again, and now I'm going to tell you not to use it for this technique, because it's actually easier for this if you hold the handle a little bit more to the back, and then you can make sure that you're really parallel to the board, so you're not going to cut into thing. So I've cut twice parallel. Now I'm going to do another thing I told you not to do. I'm actually going to put my finger on top of the blade and I'm going to cut into the onion. And as you can see, I'm not cutting all the way to the end. So my onion is still one piece. I'm putting it in the 45-degree angle again. And now I'm going to use the circular motion. And you see that an 8-inch knife is really necessary to cut something big like this. Another knife that's become very popular is the sentoku. A sentoku is a Japanese chef's knife. And you can use it for the exact same things you use the Western chef's knife for. The difference is the motion you make with the knife. Instead of making the circular motion, you actually chop with a sentoku. And as you can see, what I'm doing is basically I'm dropping the knife down and a little bit forward, parallel to the board, like this. We've been talking chef's knife, chef's knife, chef's knife, chef's knife. So by now you probably think you only need one knife. You do use this knife 90% of the time. So it's worth learning the pinch grip and the circular motion and actually have some fun cutting. But there's 10% left. So what are the other knives you really need? One of them is the paring knife. As I explained, it doesn't have the knuckle clearance, so you don't use it on the cutting board, but it's perfect for using in your hand. Peeling things, cleaning things, all kinds of small jobs. Another knife that's really nice is actually a slicing knife. And it can come in all lengths. This is a 6-inch and it's also sometimes called a utility, but you have much longer slicing knives. Slicing knives are to slice, as it says, through food. For example, a cooked chicken breast. And then the other one that's very important is the bread knife. And the bread knife is serrated. Now I know there are some of you out there that use the serrated knife for everything and anything, but that's not the way to go. Because what this serrated knife does is it actually tears the food. And sometimes that's necessary. Actually, when you're having something that's very tough on the outside and soft on the inside, you want to use a sawing motion and tear the food. But you don't want to tear a carrot, and you definitely don't want to tear a steak. Now you have the 4 most important knives. There are many more, and if you're a hobby chef or professional chef for sure, you'll need boning knives, fillet knives, but those are very specialized. So these are the 4 most important ones. Thanks for watching. I really hope you'll go out, buy a bunch of celery and carrots, and you're going to practice this, because I promise you'll have much more fun cooking. It'll be relaxing and the food will taste so much better.